I have a problem. As a man who can travel faster than light, I can only live in darkness, a void of pure emptiness. What's the point of being able to go faster than all the competition when there is no other competition? I made all that up about 10 seconds ago. How do you do? I went over Mach 2 a couple weeks ago and I wanted to use my expertise on speed on a pod racing map. This fellow Vtol enjoyer made the map I'll be using, which is a recreation of the pod racing scene from Star Wars. Why am I using this map? I have no clue. It sounded like a good idea. Also, it's a good map, but I will soon come to realize how wrong I was. Not to say it's a bad map, I'd recommend subscribing to it. Here's a rundown of it. Everyone will spawn in their own individual runway, take off and bank left. A couple miles and hills later, the racers take a left turn around a mountain here and a right turn around this one. Okay, on to the fun part. Remember watching The Phantom Menace and seeing all those racers just explode in the cave? Yeah, it's not that deadly in this race. It's more like the trench run in Maverick. There's a bunch of bridges toward the end of it, and for some reason, if you fly too high, you will explode without hitting anything. I learned this the hard way. When you leave the canyon, there's a rocket array, which are meant to be Tusken Raiders shooting at you, but they're way too easy to dodge. Last thing, there's this 20 miles straight shot right to the finish line. First things first, I needed time to base myself on, and also I forgot to use the S-cam. Science time. The less fuel you're carrying, the faster you go. However, if you don't have enough fuel, your engines will stall by the time you get to the finish. I settled on around 4,700 liters. This means I can use afterburner the whole time and still have enough to finish the course. On my next attempt, I learned that the missile indeed does know where it is and where it is not, but most importantly, it knows where I am. I finished the race at a decent time, but I still had some extra fuel left over, and I wanted this to be perfect. On my last attempt, I drained the tanks just before the finish line. I wonder if it caused me to be any slower. Now, here's what the video is about, my winning attempt. Hi, it's me in the future. I'm going to do a voiceover for how I did the race. So this is just the start of it. I'm going to be turning on my engine, jetting my canopy, you know, doing the usual plane startup. S-cam, of course, to give you guys a better view. So that map right there is so I can see the course in front of me. I kind of used it when I was learning the course, maybe not so much now. But it's nice to have it to look at to see what's in front of me from a top-down view, since I can really only see in front of me from my point of view. That objective screen is just there for looks. I just didn't want a blank screen. So if you listen, you would actually hear the sound from the movie. And I turned on flaps 2 right there for the maximum lift during takeoff. The G limiter went off because, well, I need to pull hard during the trench scene. And then the Cato trim right there, that's for carrier launches, and it pitches your plane up really quickly, and that allows it to take off much faster, and it's an automatic takeoff. It's what it is. I don't know why I'm over explaining it. And like I said, the flaps do give the most lift, so it's going to take me off. It's going to get me off the ground as quickly as possible, because the extra drag from my tires touching it and the air resistance from my landing gear is going to be a little too much. You'll see me try to pull up the landing gear as quick as possible. So as I'm taking off, you'll actually see my hand right there on it. And I'm pulling it up. It just won't let me until I'm off the ground like that. Flaps go up to reduce drag. Since I'm off the ground, I don't need the lift anymore. And I'm going to bank left and stay as low to the ground as possible. In a normal situation, if you're trying to go fast, you'd want to go high up. That's because there's less air resistance at around like 30,000 feet or so. It's the sweet spot for this plane, I think. But this race takes place on the ground. So in this race specifically, you want to be as close to the ground as possible because of your energy. Now, there's 2 types of energy. There's kinetic energy and there's potential energy. The difference between those two is kinetic energy is just a fancy way of saying speed, and potential energy is a fancy way of saying altitude. You can convert potential into kinetic by, pitching down. Going down, you gain speed when you're going towards the ground, but you're also losing altitude. So I want as much kinetic energy as I can possibly get. So as long as I'm staying towards the ground, I'll have the maximum amount of energy. I don't want potential energy because it's just energy that I'm not using. It's something that I'm saving, and I want to use as much as possible in this race. So I need to convert all my potential energy to kinetic by, going down towards the ground. I'm not doing it here because I'm going to have to pitch up once I get to that checkpoint right there in 6 miles. If you look to the right, you'll see the info screen on my fuel, where it shows all the information and how much time it's going to take. What's worrying me is there's 6 minutes left to fuel and there's 7 minutes left in this recording. So, that's a spoiler alert. Also, yes, this is sped up slightly. It's because I'm not going to be talking the whole time, and I don't want dead space in the video, like silence. It's going to be boring. It's going to reduce the watch time. This part of the map, it looks beautiful to me for some reason. I mean, it's Vtol Vr. There's not much you can really do with decorating, but just the way it's moved in the mountains, the way it's laid out. So what you're supposed to do for this checkpoint up here is go in that middle section of the bridge, but that's not what I'm going to do because the range that you can hit the checkpoint is quite big, so I can actually go through this right part of the bridge and still hit the checkpoint. Now this is the trench part. This is probably the hardest part of the race. Well, yeah, this is the hardest part of the race for pilots who haven't done it before, haven't raced. So most pilots, it's going to be the hardest part, especially if you're not in first. The part that comes after this is only hard if you're in first place, and you'll see why in a second. So what I'm trying to do here is stay low to the ground like I was doing earlier, but I'm also trying to not bank too quickly because I'm going to lose speed, but if I bank too slowly I'm going to hit that wall like I am right now. I'm about to hit that. So you really got to find that sweet spot, and if you go too far in either direction, either you take too long to turn or you take too short to turn, it's going to slow you down a lot. So this turn up here really confused me because there's such a big area that you have to go straight. I oftentimes just keep on turning and I overshoot this cliff wall right here. If you look down at my objective screen, you'll see what checkpoint I'm on and how close I am to the end. When I was first learning how to do this, it took me a while to get the canyon layout down, so I had to use the mini-map to see what was ahead. But now, like I said, I don't really use it anymore. Don't need it. So we're approaching the bridges in about 8 nautical miles. That's what NM stands for. And here is just the straight shot. I'm trying to stay as low as possible. Really just got to keep that in mind the whole time. Sometimes I haven't. My thrust to weight ratio right now is 2.25, or it's 2.2, which is really good considering most planes are standing at about 1. It's because I'm currently running out of fuel and I have about 30 miles of fuel left. This right here, if I would have went a little bit higher there, I would have been killed by an invisible collision box. And this bridge part is really fun. It seems to go a lot faster when you're actually in the plane. It's looking kind of slow now that I'm watching this back. And here we enter the Tuscan Raider Valley. This is probably the most dangerous part if you're in first. The canyon's just dangerous for everyone, but those missiles are targeting me. If you're listening, you can hear me like take a sigh of relief at the end of it. It's kind of funny. But yeah, I'm flaring, I'm releasing, like, I set my flares to release a lot more than 1 per click. It's fully automatic. I can go through all 120 in like 3 seconds. Okay. So it's just short bursts, but it gets it done. So we've got past and it's just a straight shot to the end. There's about 24 miles left of the race because there's another 4 at the finish line after this one. I lied, it's not a straight shot to the finish, it's 1 more turn, but who cares? It was a close one. There's some damage to the side. So the race before this, one of the missiles took a chunk of my wing off, which wasn't too hard to deal with as I just used the heading autopilot to keep flying straight because it corrects itself. It's kind of useful. I don't know why I'm still using it right now. I'm checking my fuel because I know I'm going to run out by the end. Even though it says I have 14 bit left and the checkpoint's only 12 away, like I said, there's still more at the end. And I'm probably not going to make it. My thrust to weight ratio has gone up to 2.34, which is fantastic. Yeah, I'm trying to stay over 700 knots the whole time, which is incredibly fast. Can't exactly get to Mach 2 here, because that took about an hour to do. Once I figured out how to do it, it took like 5 hours total. That video took me way too long to make. But if you want to see it, I'm going to link it in the description, maybe, if I can think so. If I remember to. Also, for my subscribers who like watch my videos regularly, would you comment below whether you want to see a Boneworks video or not, and like what type, whether you want me to make my usual stuff or yeah, just like a playthrough, but not completely unedited. Yeah. So if you look, I'm gonna run out of fuel before I make it to the finish line, but it's fine because I'm traveling at 700 knots. I think I can get halfway around the world at this point. And there, I ran out. Engine failure. But I'm gonna make it. I do slow down a lot in there. I won because I'm the only person left. Anyway, have a good rest of your day.